Okay, so let's just review the slides back from here. So chapter 3, the learning objectives, methods utilized to study leadership behavior, understand findings in early research, understand how leadership behavior can be described, either broad or specific categories, understand how the taxonomies of leadership has been utilized, understand why task and relations behaviors are important for leadership effectiveness, understand how specific types of tasks and relations behaviors can be used effectively, understand why it is useful to classify leadership behavior in terms of three-dimensional model, understand the contributions and limitations of behavior research. So that's pretty much the objectives of this chapter. So let's just start. So in Ohio State Leadership Studies, which is basically the recent studies on leadership, they found out that leadership behaviors are the consideration, like leaders' concern for people and interpersonal relationships was really okay, checking again. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Okay. So the leader's concern for people and interpersonal relationships have been put to question. They have been studying it in the Ohio State Leadership Studies, and then initiating structure, the leader's concern for accomplishing the task. So these are type of behavior that you expect from a leader, that the leader have concern for people and their relationships. And also the structure is the way the leaders leaders concern for accomplishing the task is existent. So basically the leader himself or herself is concerned about the task, about accomplishing the task. So you see the involvement from the leader. As you can see here, the relationship is in consideration and turnover rate, as you can see, is the higher the consideration, the lower the turnover. And the lower the consideration, the higher is the turnover. And when you get to the bottom, the highest consideration at a certain level, from if you look at 76 to 80, it will be pretty much the same. So it means that after a certain level of consideration, it doesn't really matter anymore how much you're concerned. I mean, you have to have a certain level of involvement from the leader side, but from there on, you don't really add to, you don't really benefit from extra concern from that certain, expected amount from the employees. So you can see that it doesn't really make any difference from that point on, and it's basically kind of wasted. So definitely the concern from the leader is important, especially at the initial level. But after that certain level, like the extra concern from the leader does not really add to the to the benefit that the employees get. So as you can see here, the initiating a structure, as you can see, is also on a linear on a linear relationship, where you can see that the higher the initiating structure from the leader, is showing the higher turnover. So it's just the other way around from the previous slide. So in this case, the leader doing the job for employees didn't really help. So Michigan leadership studies also gave us some feedback that they studied on task-oriented behaviors, how when the leadership is based on a certain task, so your behavior is geared around a certain task, and then relations-oriented behavior and participative leadership. And finally, peer leadership was put to question. Peer leadership is like when co-workers coach each other along and help each other. So limitations of survey research. Bias in behavior description questionnaires. So you have ambiguous items, you have response bias, and aggregation of items. So in your question, in the questionnaire they gave out, in order to understand the different type of behaviors in leadership, it's good to cover 3 points: ambiguous items, those questions in the questionnaire that were not clear enough, those that they had bias, and then those that had few items they were asking about. So they were like questioning about 2 or 3 points, whereas they had to only ask about 1 single point. So as you can see here, we are basically trying to understand the causality in survey studies. We want to see if A leads to B. Let's say if leader behavior leads into the variable. So as you can see here, there was a relationship between leader behavior and our variables, which was the turnover of the employees. So this basically, I'm sure that you have been studying the research methods, and they have been discussing how variables work together, how A, and then we have the variables, and then intermediate variables. So this basically is trying to show you how it works when you have A leads to B, So one of the very common type of research that we do is experiment. So for experiment, we do laboratory experiments and field experiments. So basically for laboratory, we have low external validity. So validity is basically, as you have probably studied in your research class, is about generalizability, how you can generalize a proposition, a hypothesis. And then high internal validity. High internal validity happens when there is a high relationship in between the questions. And then inconsistent findings is because you are just doing in laboratory. So every single time there's a good chance that you come up with a different result. It's not generalizable. And then for field experiment, it's difficult to conduct high external validity, low internal validity, and positive results for relationship-oriented behaviors, and mixed and inconsistent results for task-oriented behaviors. So we have these different types of results. We are focusing on behaviors that are geared around relations. And then we have mixed and inconsistent results. So as you can see, field experiment and laboratory experiment, they're similar in a way that you won't be able to generalize your findings. It's just the matter of that experiment. It's very much for scientific research, for chemical, for all those findings, medical findings. They do a lot of these type of research. We have critical incident research. And basically we have types of leader behaviors. We are talking about planning, coordinating, and organizing operations. And you have supervising subordinates. You have establishing and maintaining good relations with subordinates, and then establishing and maintaining good relations with superiors and peers and outsiders. I see that you have okay, it seems that you guys don't have the PowerPoint slide, and I can go ahead and send it to you. Okay, sure, absolutely. I'll send it to you right after the class. So let's focus on the topic now, and then right after the class, I'll send it to you. So where were we? Okay, so types of leader behaviors. We are talking about different behaviors that the leader does all through the the leadership process. One of the behaviors that is very important is planning, coordinating, and organizing operations. Yeah, okay. I'll make sure that I send it to you. I'll send the slides to you. So I believe I did send it to you a couple of weeks ago, because last week we didn't have a class. I sent it to you like 2 weeks ago. But if not, I will make sure that I send it to you today, right after the class. Okay, let's get back to our topic. So we have different types of leader behavior. We have planning, coordinating, and organizing operations. Absolutely. So the leader does a lot of planning. He or she is planning ahead in order what's coming next and how to behave and respond to different incidents as they occur. Yes, sure, absolutely. I'll send it to you. And then, next to managerial skills, I don't understand, Mr. Tafari. What do you mean by managerial skills? Is that your question or you're making a comment? Could you please clarify? What do you mean by next to managerial skills? Oh, it's a comment. Oh, okay. Very good. Yes. Do you want to elaborate on that? What is it related to? You don't want to elaborate? Okay. So, continuing, then we have supervising subordinates. So when you have a leader, your leader is basically planning and coordinating and organizing, there's also subordinates to the leader that, oh, they're the same. Kind of, yes. I mean, managerial. We talked about this concept that the leader and the manager could be the same. Everybody could be manager. Sorry, everybody could be a leader. So in that sense, your manager has to do leadership as well. But leadership is mostly beyond management, with the sense that the involvement is much more, and it's like a group work together when it comes to leadership. So establishing and maintaining good relations with superiors and peers and outsiders. A lot of times you have to establish some good relationships with your superiors, peers, and outsiders. So relationship really matters when it comes to leadership. Then assuming responsibility for observing organizational policies, carrying out required duties, and making necessary decisions. So taking on a responsibility. Yeah, as I mentioned, management and leadership are not necessarily the same. There are a lot of common factors within them, but leadership, it takes much more to be a leader rather than a manager. Manager, you just do what you need to do and what you're told and get it done through the people. But leadership, you define what needs to be done. Leadership, according to the vision that you see for the company, you define the jobs for people. You are the one who leads and people will follow you. Whereas management, you just tell people what to do and they just do it and you monitor that and you facilitate. So there is a big difference there. But there are commonalities between these two. So you see that there are common features between management and leadership, but they're not the same. Yeah, the leadership is basically more uh, elaborate and like it's more comprehensive. That's very true. Leaders, they look at the vision of the company and corporation. So, so the responsibility that the leader assumes is pretty high, and then limitations of critical incident research. Critical incident research is that it's those type of research that, I mean, like on critical incident research is on a certain incident. Let's say there is financial crisis. Just because of the financial crisis, on this certain incident of financial crisis, people start doing research to find out why, to find out the causes, to find out how to solve the problem. This is called critical incident research. So on a certain event, they start looking for the causes, for the roots, for the consequences, and everything like that. So the high leader. So we have the managerial grid and the PM leadership theory that we will discuss later in detail. Additive versus multiplicative model. Yeah, PM is basically a type of leadership theory that they came up with that we will cover in the next few slides. But basically, is just the difference of the management and the leadership. It's basically performance maintenance. The PM leadership is talking about the performance maintenance. So it stands for, let me write it down, performance. What it is basically, let me just explain briefly. But PM leadership or performance maintenance leadership theory is that you try to keep the performance. Let me just retype it again. So performance maintenance. So what exactly we mean by that is basically, as a leader, you try to keep the performance of your staff at a certain level. So you maintain those performances. You maintain those levels of performances, and you make sure that they will continue performing and be productive. So additive versus multiplicative model. Additive is where you add certain features. Multiplicative is just the continuation of what you've been doing. Limited support for a universal model. You need to incorporate situational variables. So these are basically high leader features. Mostly it covers this type of research on leadership. Mostly covers the theories of leadership and the models, and additive is where you add certain features and you see how it will affect the leadership status. So multiplicative, though, is just the continuation of certain behavior from the leader and just the rechecking how it's effective. But additive, you're changing behaviors and also doing research at the same time. So, as you can see here, we do have concern for people, and we do have concern for production. When it comes to leadership or management, this is more of a managerial grid, though. But concern for production for management is mostly higher compared to concern for people. Whereas for leadership, even though production is important, but as a leader, the production is not necessarily your job or responsibility. So this is mostly the manager's job. So you don't worry too much about it. But generally, as you can see, like country club is where it's like very casual and people just socialize with each other and stuff like that. And you can see concern for people is very much, but concern for production is not that much, because country club is more of a networking and socializing thing rather than production. But you can see on the very other end, we have team management. And team management, you have very high concern for people and high concern for production. This is like the total quality management type of a company. This is like Toyota. You see the team management happening. You see that every team they're managing together, they're coaching each other, and they're helping each other out. So that is team management. But then you see at the bottom, we have authority compliance. Is just by telling people what to do, and it's more of just very, very telling type of management. And you mostly just tell your staff what you expect them to do, and you basically don't give them that much of freedom of choice. They just do what you tell them to do, and that's why the concern for people is so low. But in the middle is somewhere that you have concern for production and concern for people. And in impoverished, at the very bottom, you see that none of them are really taken care of. That's where you don't want to be. So this grid can give you some good idea. You can always chart yourself. What is your concern for your staff, for your people, and what is your concern for your production? And you can imagine where exactly you are. And that way you would know what is the fair behavior from a leader in that certain area, like how you need to respond, how you need to act and react according to your concerns for people and concerns for production. So this is very, very like technical research findings that you can see. That these are different methods used in their type of research, so it's not necessarily what we need to cover. And then source of diversity among taxonomies. No absolute set of correct behaviors. You're not getting the slide. You mean that you can't see the slide, Ms. Akbari? Or you don't understand that? Ms. Akbari, oh, you don't understand. Yes, okay. This is slide you don't understand? Or this is slide you don't understand? Slide number 13 or next slide, number 14. Which one don't you understand? Oh, 13. Okay, let's go back to 13. Okay, 13 basically what it is to help you understand your concern for production versus your concern for your people or staff. As we have discussed before, when it comes to leadership, there is a lot of concerns about people. You know, you want to make sure that you take good care of your staff, your people, and of course you want to be concerned about the production. Like, let's say if you are producing certain product, you want to make sure that your performance and your production is at the highest level possible. So this grid is basically telling you how the managerial grid is going to work. So you see that how, let's say in a country club, which is a networking place, you don't really have that much of a production because it's mostly networking. But you see a lot of concern for people. So if you're managing that type of groups, so you don't really focus on. You're cutting out, Ms. Akbari. Can you say that again? Can you say that again or write it down? Okay. Can everybody hear me, please? Can everybody hear me? Okay. Yeah, if you cannot hear me, I would say those of you who cannot hear me or you don't hear me clearly, I would say it's generally because of your internet speed or your speakers are not set correctly. So, oh, okay, that's okay. I would suggest for those of you who have problems, just log out and log back in. A lot of times that's going to help. Or even restart your computer. That helps you to, fix the problem. So please try to do that and then log back in and see if the problem is resolved. Okay, so basically, as I said, this slide is mostly focusing on your response to production versus your response to people. Okay, and as I said, this slide is kind of technically saying what type of research they use, which is not necessarily within the topic of our course. We just leave it here. It's just they're showing what type of research they did in order to describe the predictive behavior. So basically, the definition, the taxonomy, what we mean is definition. So we are trying to find out what are the sources of all these diversities, these differences among definitions of leadership. So the first thing that you need to understand and keep in mind is that for leadership, there is no absolute set of correct behaviors. You cannot say that this is the right way, the only way of leadership. So that in itself brings a big problem when you want to define leadership on how to lead, on telling people how to lead and exactly explaining to them, because a lot of times it takes a lot of common sense, a lot of commitment, a lot of understanding or leader himself or herself. So then level of abstraction. The leadership in itself is an abstract term, so sometimes it might be difficult to be able to define it. And then various methods used to develop taxonomies. So there are many different methods that they use when they want to develop taxonomies. So limitations of factor-based taxonomy. So there are limitations when it comes to definitions. So a lot of times you are not able to define because you are limited. So you see here, there are examples at different levels of abstraction. Like going back to the slide that we were discussing, the middle range categories, like clarification and the behavior, when it's task-oriented behavior, it will be monitoring. When it's concrete and narrow categories like goal setting, one of the task-oriented behaviors is visiting facilities. When it comes to observed incidents, the manager set a goal to increase sales 10%. So a task-oriented behavior would be manager walked through the new store to see if it was ready for the opening. So it's really important to be able to put an example. This type of grids and charts really help when it's abstract or you're trying to define an abstract term. So as you can look at here, the clarifying. That's one of the jobs, one of the behaviors expected from the leader. But a good way to clarify is by monitor. When the leader monitors to make sure everybody understands, to make sure everybody is performing and acting based on that expected performance. So that is a good behavior that is geared towards your goal. So when you're doing goal setting, when you're setting your goals as a leader and you're telling your staff, it's good to visit your facility. It's good to pay visits to your staff, talk to them, see what are their concerns. These are all different techniques and methods that you can use that, as a leader you could be successful. You got to understand and keep in mind, as we just discussed, these are not the only ways. This is not that if you don't do this exactly, you're making a mistake. This is not the case. These are just suggested behaviors, and according to the scenarios, these are examples. So you can use other methods, but these happen to be successful so far, and the research has been proving. So we have different type of definitions, like 3-dimensional, when we have task-oriented behaviors, relationship-oriented, and change-oriented. So this has been a very common type of defining by taxonomies, we mean definitions. So this is a very common type of defining leadership. So what it is basically you focus on 3 factors: task, relations, and change. Because as a leader, you're dealing with all these 3 all the time. You always have a task, your team members have a task. You always have relationships, and there's relations that you need to, have with your employees or your peers or your superiors or subordinates, and there's always change. So it's really a good idea to look at the leadership's definition under these 3 groups, because you've been dealing with them as a leader all the time. So you need to organize your work activities to improve efficiency. You need to plan short-term operations. You need to assign work to groups or individuals. You need to clarify what results are expected for a task, and you need to set a specific goals and standards for task performance. These are task-oriented. The first group that we talked about, which is task-oriented, it's good to use these. It's good to organize work activities and improve efficiency. It's good to plan short-term operations. It's always good to have a long-term plan, but it's definitely a necessity to have a short-term plan. So that you've got to keep in mind. A lot of times folks just have a long-term plan and think that that's enough, but that's not the case. You definitely need a short-term plan. Like you have to have a lot of short-term plans, and that's how you monitor your performance. You plan and you see how you did, if you managed to do what you planned for or not. That's really important. And then you assign work to groups or individuals. Then you clarify what results are expected for a task, and you set a specific goals and standards for task performance. So it's really good to be clear when you're a leader. It's good to be able to assign work to groups or individuals. So when you are expecting the group work, it's good to be able to assign what jobs need to be done by who. And if it's individual, also the same. And also clarify what results are expected for a task. And set the specific goals and standards for the task performance. So these will be really helpful if you can do that. So continuation of task-oriented behavior, we have to explain rules, policies, and standards, operating procedures. By short, it could be as short as daily. It could be as short as hourly. It could be, by short, we mean as long as that certain task is. You can make your task as small as possible, like into chunk sizes that is manageable. So then, according to that certain task, you would be expecting your staff and employees to be performing based on that. Then Ms. Akbari, do you have a comment to share with us? Mr. Faisal, both of them are useful to the group. You need to have group and individual. Groups are good because it encourages the involvement of the team members. When it's in groups, they can work together. They can come up with coaching techniques. They help each other out. But when it's individual, it's less of that. But at the same time, the great benefit of individual, which makes it a necessity, is that you definitely need to have an individual task also, because anyway, every single team member needs to be involved, needs to do something, so they do have a certain task by themselves as well. So a lot of times we have both of them together. And groups are really good because it encourages the team membership, helping the peers, helping your friends or coworkers. But you cannot say just which one is better. Then monitor operations and performance. You need to monitor it. You need to resolve immediate problems that would disrupt the work. So as a leader, as a manager, you have to be able to solve those problems that are disrupting the work, disrupting the process, and you got to do it immediately. Because if you wait for a certain amount of time to just respond, it might be too late already. So you got to be responsive, and you got to respond to every single problem right away in order to enhance the problem to be solved and reduce the difficulty. Then you got to direct and coordinate your work activities. So when there are work activities, when you define the work activities, you got to coordinate. So as a leader, you will be a coordinator also. So you make sure that people know what they do, who to contact to. If they are facing a problem, they can contact you, and from there on you can continue. So that's really important. And you monitor their operation and performance, and then this goes back to performance measurement, the PM. These are basically the details of those theories that we are just discussing. It's really important when it comes to problems, and every single person has so much time, so of course you will get busy, so you need to be able to assign jobs. But as a leader, you got to address the problem immediately. So it is fine if you assign a certain manager, a certain employee to take care of a problem, but you definitely need to take care of it. you definitely need to assign a person. You cannot just leave it there and say, okay, I'm busy, let's do my thing. That's where the group and individual come into perspective. As a leader, you are leading a team. So as a leader, you cannot just say, okay, I'm individually doing my job and I don't care about the team. You always have to care about the team because you are the one who's running the team. You're the one who's leading the team. So if there's any problem with the team, even though it is not within what you were supposed to do, you got to find out who was the cause of the problem and try to address the problem immediately. It's either by you going and fixing the problem or assigning somebody else. Yeah, you need to address the problem, either assign somebody to fix it or yourself. Yes, that's true. But individually, as a leader, you need to create that environment. So let's say you're in production, you're in car production company, like in Toyota. As a leader in Toyota, if let's say the engines are not working properly, that certain car that you're focusing on, their engines are not working properly. So that's a problem, and you're a leader. So what you gotta do is first find out why these problems with the engines happen at the first place. The answer to this question means you do research, you assign somebody to do research and get back to you, or a team of research to do that research for you. And then you need to make sure the environment is good enough to address the problem and solve it. So, and when you find a solution, you got to make sure that everybody is on the same page, understanding the problem, and is able to help you remove the problem, because you don't want it to happen again. So your team already faced that problem. You got to fix it and fix it forever so that it doesn't come back to you. So as you can see, as a leader, you have to assign individuals to do research or do stuff, but as a team, you got to make sure everybody follows that pattern. So that is for this one. Continuing for oriented behaviors, provide support and encouragement to someone with a difficult task. It's really important to be able to provide support when somebody has a difficult. I mean, it's easy to assign jobs to people. You just say, you do it. But you got to walk them through. You got to take their hand and just walk them through when they have problems, because you are the leader. You are the know-how person. So they should feel free to come back to you when they're facing a problem, when they cannot do what we ask them to do. They need to be able to get some encouragement, to get some guidance from you, and you got to be there for them. Then express confidence that a person or a group can perform a difficult task. A lot of times, leaders just assign like jobs or certain group work to their teams, and just right off the bat they say, you know what, I'm not sure if you can do it, and they, deep in their heart, they don't think that the team can do it. That type of behavior is really hurting you. You shouldn't be doing that. When you assign a job to a team, first of all, you got to make sure that you are assigning doable tasks. So that's part of your responsibility, to make it doable, to clarify it, and when you talk to your team, you expect them something that is possible. So if you think that your team cannot do something, it's your problem as a leader, because you have not done your job researching and studying that task, and you don't really know what you're expecting them to do and what you can expect as a result. So it's really important, though, to know what to expect and to know it's a doable task. So when you're giving it, you have to have confidence. You have to have confidence that this team, that this individual can perform what you expect them to. Then socialize with people to build relationships. You know, as a leader, as a manager, you're dealing with people. A lot of times we have engineers, we have all these people from different fields, and when they become managers or leaders, they forget the fact that they are dealing with people. Yes, the company is dealing with machines perhaps or whatever and producing something, but the final product is going to people. You're dealing with people. So you got to be able to socialize with them. The bonding, you know, the rapport has to be created. And then recognize contributions and accomplishments. As a leader, it's a must. It's part of your job to acknowledge when somebody does a good job. You know, it's not just to punish them when they make a mistake. It's also to reward them. It's to say, hey, you did a good job. Sometimes that in itself is better than a 1 million prize, because that individual might have spent so much time and needs that encouragement from you. And then provide coaching and mentoring when appropriate. Many times we see leaders that they just assign the job and they just leave and they stonewall or don't respond to questions or when the employee is asking for help. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be coaching them. You should be there for them and help them, you know, get the job done. Socializing means a social relationship. So the answer is no, Mr. Faisal. Socializing means be sociable with your employees. Means that you socialize with them, be friends with them, be comfortable, make sure they're comfortable. It's like a social relationship. Yeah, it's like having a good relationship socially. So you're able to communicate with them, you know, because this is the key. As a leader, you have to communicate. So if you have a problem communicating, that will be your priority to be able to fix that in order to can tell your employees what you expect, in order to can tell your employees how to do certain stuff. Because it's all about communication. It's all about you telling your addressee what you expect, how you expect it, so they have some idea. So consult with people on decisions affecting them. It's always a good idea to consult with people. Don't think that you know best and you are the only one who knows the answer. It's always good to consult, especially when you're making a decision affecting a certain department, a certain employee. Get their feedback, get their comments. It doesn't mean that you have to do what they tell you, but it gives you some feedback on your decision. Tell people to determine the best way to do a task. So you allow people to determine the best way. You give some room for people to make changes, to do it the way they think is best. Don't be so controlling and control freak, just wanting people to do their task only the way you want them to. So don't do that. Give them some freedom. Keep people informed about the actions affecting them. Let people know when they do certain things, how it affects them, and when, and why. Help resolve conflicts in a constructive way. Use symbols, ceremonies, rituals, and stories to build team identity. So it's really good to be able to use symbols, ceremonies, rituals, and stories to build a team identity. Recruit competent new members for the team or organization. Yeah, rituals is like get-togethers, those certain events that they have for certain occasions. So it's like, or basically, you know, it's part of being exemplar. It's part of being an example. And like you do a ritual, to give you an example, is when you use a symbol as a value. Let's say Apple company uses Apple symbol. It gives them the identity of something good, something that is beneficial, something that is demanded. So that's a ritual. And a lot of time rituals are religious, different religious sayings, So it's basically talking about values, cultural values. So I focus on those, try to use those accordingly. No, please, I like those questions, Mr. Faisal. That means that I'm not just talking to myself. I encourage your questions, and that's great that you're asking, and that's great involvement in the class. That's what I expect from everyone. We don't want to just talk about these concepts. We can just read it in the book if that is the case. We want to discuss about it. So that's great. Ask more questions. I encourage you. So wherever you don't know, pause me, ask me, and we'll discuss it. We want to make sure we learn and we are able to do these and implement these in our work environment. So it's really important that we have this mentality that we are not just memorizing these techniques, because these are in themselves nothing. The only thing that matters is to be able to use them in your work environment. So in order to do that, yeah, rituals are mostly a lot of religious concepts. So basically what he was saying is that use rituals, use stories. Like, let's say I've been a manager for several years, and when I talk to my colleagues, I tell them, hey, when I was a child, I was just like a few weeks ago, I was doing a recording for advertisement purposes, and I was explaining to my audience, and basically what I did, I just told them a story, a story of my childhood. I told them, like, hey, when I was a child, it was the case, this was the case, and I related that to the topic. So if you do that, it will help. It will help your socializing with your employees. It will help that they remove the barriers. They feel comfortable with you. Suddenly, they feel like a friend. Of course, it's good to have a certain, boundaries. I'm not telling you just go be friends with your janitors and then let them decide for you. But what I'm saying is, don't be too much like surrounded by rules and boundaries, so that your employees are not able to talk to you or contact you. Then recruit competent new members. It's always good to get new blood in the system. It's always good to get people to the company that is going to help them. So don't think that just sticking to what you have will help you. Not necessarily. Change-oriented behavior. So this is the last of the three that we discussed. So monitor the external environment to detect threats and opportunities. In the business strategy class, we discussed the SWOT analysis, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So for change behavior as a leader, you got to look into these threats and opportunities outside, because those could be your next task. That opportunity that shows up might be your task for a new sale, for a new production, for a new success. Or those threats that are coming your way might be your next task to fix the problem. So interpret events to explain the urgent need for change. So it's always good to be able to interpret events when they happen, to apply them, and to tell your employees what exactly it is related to. Then envision exciting new possibilities for the organization. As a leader, you got to see the future. You got to see the vision. So be able to envision, be able to see where you're headed, and be able to help your employees to see that. Encourage people to view problems or opportunities in a different way. Because just looking at a problem and say, hey, there's a problem, and just not be able to perform is not what you want to do as a leader. You want to make sure that when there is a problem, you have a positive attitude towards it. You have a can-do attitude. You're just going for it and to fix it and solve it and benefit from it and increase the production and, service quality and customer service and everything. So that kind of attitude. Let your employees know that they can look at stuff like you. They can see the problem, but they look at the problem with the big perspective, with the big picture, and from that problem they see a good opportunity down the line. Develop innovative new strategies linked to core competencies. This is the one that is most related to business strategy. You are going to develop new strategies all the time. And mostly, as a leader, it's your job, it's your responsibility to link your strategies to core competencies. Those are stuff that you're good at, or your company's good at. Then the continuation of the change-oriented behaviors. Encourage and facilitate innovation and entrepreneurship in organizations. Innovation is really important. So the only one who will encourage it is the leader or the manager. So make sure you do that encouragement. Make sure that you tell your staff and employees that innovations are appreciated. Then collective learning and team organization. Team building and teamwork always helps. Entrepreneurship means you develop new skills, new jobs. You are a creator. You as a business developer. You're not just a performer. You're not just a manager. Entrepreneur means that you help people to build up. You build up businesses. You build up skills in people. That's called entrepreneurship. So experiment with new approaches for achieving objectives. It's always good to change your approaches when it's necessary. Be able to adjust and then make symbolic changes that are consistent with the new vision. When you come up with a new vision, when you make a change to your new vision, make sure you make changes on your approaches accordingly. Make sure your approach is reflecting your objective or your visions. Oh, the innovative from entrepreneurship is totally different. Innovate means coming with new ways. Entrepreneurship is the act of or the characteristic of a person who is able to develop businesses, who is able to develop the skills in people and help them grow and help them succeed in business. So entrepreneurship is actually a characteristic. Innovative is coming up with new ideas. It's being able to come up with inventions or new ideas. So innovative is for ideas. Entrepreneurship is one of the characteristics that the leader has to have. Yes. Yes. Entrepreneurs are those who from scratch they create a business. They create jobs. They create possibilities. Successful business people are entrepreneurs. Experiment with new approaches for achieving objectives. Make symbolic changes. Encourage facilitate efforts to implement major change. You got to facilitate the change. You are the one who has to encourage the change. You are the one who should tell people, hey, change is good, let's do it. Announce and celebrate progress in implementing change. Influence outsiders to support change and negotiate agreements with them. Let me just show you some short clips. Okay, this is a 1-minute clip from basically two entrepreneurs. I want you to basically look at that. Let me just share my. Does that mean that change-oriented behavior leaders always think about change management? Not necessarily. Change management and I mean, definitely you've got to manage the change, but not necessarily. Sometimes you use a different style of management. But change-oriented behavior means that you are encouraging change. So as a leader, you're welcoming change. So let me show you this video clip. It's basically on a two entrepreneurs are talking. So it's good to be able to listen to them. Okay.
So I am Roselle, and this is Jesse Listen. And I'm the CEO and founder of Contract, a local, data-driven online marketing firm here in Raleigh.
And, I'm Jesse Wilson. I'm the CEO of a company called ShareFile, and I graduated in 2000 with a degree in philosophy, so I'm undergraduate.
I experience in college, graduate college. We met each other when I was a freshman and a junior at Duke and started dating that night. Got married 3 years ago. We just had our 10-year anniversary since that fateful day, and we started our company before we graduated from Duke and moved to Raleigh, and that's where our company came. So tonight we want to do a few things. First of all, that you should be an entrepreneur. You should start your business while you're graduating, and that you should go for a simple idea rather than try to be the next Facebook or Twitter. And last thing, if you do one thing right, it should be about customer service. So before we jump into that, we're going to give you our own story. So there we were, 2 years ago, probably about your age. I was terrible haircut. Jeff is pretty dorky.
Yeah, still looks pretty dorky.
And here we are today. We've grown quite a bit. That's our dog studio. That's Jeff's company share file, and that's my company for contract. So I want to show you how we did this so that you guys can do it too. So it all started in this installed in Florida, which is right down here. Jeff was living there with your friends, and one sophomore was with me.
And everything actually is in the garage in the house. We met her in the room. And this is 1999, so it's kind of when the internet boom was happening. And I didn't really know much about technology, but all these people we knew were getting funded and starting companies. And it's kind of give you an idea of what things were like in 1999. We had no broadband since we were off campus, so we had 5 analog.
Okay. So basically, I just wanted to get some ideas. What it was that I was showing you was these two. They have founded a computer company that basically they have grown so fast, and they just to give you an example of entrepreneurship, these two were giving a speech at Duke University, which is one of the best schools in the world, and they were just sharing their stories. So you're more than welcome. It's a long video that you can just go watch later. Let me just send you the link. You can just go watch it and hear their stories. They talk about their marriage also, like how they met and everything. And basically, there's something I want to share with you guys also in this class. I'm getting married next week, and that's I'm very happy. So just wanted to let you know, next week, next Sunday, that is our class. We need to postpone it to the weeks after. So far, it will be 2 classes that we have canceled. Last week I had, oh, thank you so much. Yes, I'm so happy, and it's a big event in my life. So basically, what we need to do is to, we have a couple options. Oh, thank you so much. What we can do is either have extra classes, like one day during the week for those 2 classes to have a makeup class, or we can break those 2 classes into half hour and add it to your class. Oh, thank you. Yes, we will have a marriage party next week. That's why I have to. Yes, you're more than welcome to attend the party. You can just take your ticket to Los Angeles, and you'll be celebrating it here. Yes, you're all invited. So, so what happens is we could add, like, divide those. It's like those 3 hours into half hours and add it to your classes. Like the next week we won't have any class, but the week after. Let me put back my microphone on so that you can hear me. Okay, is it better now? Can you hear me now? Okay. So, yes, I was saying that we have few options. We can either break those classes into half hours, add them to our class. So we will be finishing our class half hour later to cover those 2 classes that we missed. Or we could just have 2 makeup classes. What do you guys rather? Thank you so much. Do you prefer to have? Yeah, that's correct. Much more responsibilities. So choice A is have 2 separate makeup classes, or choice B, is add the time to your classes and finish later. Okay? Okay, let's do choice A then. So we will have 2 makeup classes for those 2, and I'll discuss with the admin. Oh, thank you. No problem. It's just your preference. It's fine, totally fine. You can absolutely have extra classes. So what I will do, I will discuss with the admin, find out what is the best way to have those extra classes, what day, and then discuss with you via email. Okay, so number 1 is 2 separate classes, and number 2 is add the time to your classes. So add the time to classes means like every session, instead of finishing after 1 hour and a half, it will be 2 hours, so you have extra half hour until we cover those 2 classes. Whichever works for you. So far, seems that your friends rather 2 separate classes. We can absolutely do that. Okay, majority wants the first one. Okay, let's do that. We'll do that. So number 1 was to have 2 separate classes additional for the makeup, or break it down and add like those times to each class. Like let's say we divide those classes and add half hour to each class from the following weeks. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you very much. Okay, so it seems that the majority rather the first choice. So let's do that. Okay. So that is for that. Let me give you a task before we end the class. I want you to tell me. Okay. Look at. Yeah, I repeat it once more. I was asking Ms. Akbari whether you rather to have a these, because last week we didn't have a class, and next week because of my wedding we are not able to have the class. So I owe you 2 classes. So those 2 classes, we could have 2 additional makeup classes sometime during the week, and it's good for you guys. Or it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference to me. Whichever is better for you is fine with me. So, or we could just divide those times and then add them to your following week classes. So let's say you'll have 2-hour classes for a while to just cover those 2 classes. So. Oh yeah, but I know, but we can manage that, no problem. It's totally fine. It's just one class, next class, because it's just the night of my, I'm getting married next week, so it's a lot to prepare, and I have a lot to do next week. So next week I won't be able to attend the class. Yeah, Mr. Faisal, do you want to share anything with us?
I just want to explain the issue to my friends that there were two options from the professor. One option was that as we study here in Afghanistan now from 7 to 8:30. So it would be from 7 up to 10, which is too late in Afghanistan. Like people go to at 8 or at 8:30. So the second choice was to take both classes at one time, at the same time. The first choice was to take separate classes. It means that we have one class, one leadership class in a week. So we would have then like two leadership classes in the future. I think most of our classmates selected the first, we can say, option, which is taking separate classes. It means we may take two leadership classes in the future or in the next week, coming weeks. Thanks, sir. Sorry for disturbing.
Okay, sure, no problem. Yes, but but it's not 7 to 10. I was suggesting that you would have the class from 7 to 9. Like half hour extra for a few weeks, so that those classes are covered. Not that you know the whole 1 hour and a half is added to the class. So it's just half hour to few of the coming classes. So then it will be covered. It will take us about 6 sessions to cover that way. But we could just have 2 separate classes and cover. But it looks like majority rather is the choice A, so we go by choice A. What we can do, when I email you the slides today, please, if you could kindly tell me what is your option. And then I will see what the majority thinks is better. So, yeah, let's see what's the majority. Okay. So please respond back to me. What is your choice? You can email me at puyan.yusufifard@gmail.com. So please email me at puyan.yusufifard@gmail.com and tell me either 1 or 2. So I'll see what's the majority, and then we will go by that. Is that okay? Okay, sounds good. So our task for this session is just, if you could possibly tell me what is the best regarding concern for production and concern for people. So, if you could tell me what is the best part of this grade to be, as far as the concern for people or concern for production. So I want to know your opinion. that is it good to have the highest for concern for people and the highest concern for production, or where, you know, tell me, where do you think is best? I give you a couple minutes to think about it, and then we will discuss it. Does everybody understand the question? Okay. So please think about it, couple minutes, and then we'll discuss, and I want to know why you think middle of the road is good, authority compliance is good, impoverished is good. We want to discuss it in the class, so just a couple minutes, and then let's discuss it in the class. Okay, let's see what we have. With a high concern for production, let's just start from here. Okay. Okay. So prefer the middle of the road, and we say it's always better to do the middle, not more and not less. Okay. So base says concern for people is the best because you will do all these for people. Okay, concerning about both is good. From my point of view, the middle of the road is better because it's concerns for people and also for production. If you are more concerned about the people, they will be more dependable on you, and it will be difficult to perform the tasks. And if you are more concerned about the task, it's difficult to forget about the people as well. I think the team management is the best because in that case, the production and the people concerned both would be taken into consideration. Very good. Okay, with a high concern for production and low concern for people, managers using this to certify employees is unimportant. They provide their employees with money and expect performance in return. Managers using this style also pressure their employees. Punishment, because for people, you provide products, so you should serve the people. So the middle choice is most of the time better, or might create high expectations. Sometimes I do agree that it might be difficult to do everything as perfect with team management, but if you highly concentrate on products, so you may not provide service to people. So you just middle of the road, manage your production of other people, guide, motivate, people monitor. Okay. Yeah. Basically, you are all correct. Your opinions and comments they all make sense. It really depends on the type of company that you are in, and basically, the more touch and relationship you have your people. If you're a service company, the role of people is much more important than if you're just a production company. So, but recently we have seen that a lot of companies, even though they are service companies, they are focusing so much on production that they're forgetting about their people. A lot of banks are doing it, a lot of service companies are doing it, and they're getting only in sales perspective and forget about their people, how to treat them, what is best for them, and stuff like that. So my response would be definitely at the bottom of concern for people. Those who don't have any concern for people in impoverished part is in no can do. So you're looking at least middle of the road for concern for people. But so I would say anything above middle of the road towards team management is where you want to go. So if you look at this line from 1-1 to 5-5 and 9-9, I would say team management is the best. That has been proven by a lot of companies like Toyota, General Electric, all those famous and successful companies. But, and then authority compliance, I would say it's definitely a no can do. So at the very bottom, I wouldn't just even think about it. It looks like it's expired, and those companies that are doing it, they can't keep on doing it for long. So I would say anywhere above 5 would be good for concern for people. Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Faisal. The more you are towards services, you need more, but at least 5, I would say. But if it's more of an engineering, 5 would be enough. Very good. Are there any questions? Any comments or questions before we finish the class? Okay, thank you so much. So as I mentioned, next week we wouldn't have any class, absolutely. So yeah, impoverished is a no can't do, Mr. Faisal. I say never do impoverished. Yes, please go ahead, Mr. Faisal. What is your comment? What is the comment, Mr. Faisal? Are you talking about the previous comment you made that? Oh, okay. Impoverished means that they're poor. They're poor in both sides, production and service. So that's really a bad place to be. Those companies that are impoverished, they mean that they have no concern for people and no concern for production. They'll be out of business in no time. So it's a no can't do. 1-1 is really a bad area to be for your, managerial grid. You don't want to be there. Okay. So you're welcome. You have a wonderful week. So I'll see you 2 weeks from now, next Sunday. And in the meantime, please send me your choices of 1 or 2, each one you like, so that we can finalize our makeup classes. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful week. Oh, thank you so much.